The purple flames of the Zapirian warfleet painted the void around Haven's Rest in brutal alien light. High Commander Velter, a being whose species had refined conflict into an exact science for millennia, watched the human colony on his main screen and believed the battle was already won. He was catastrophically wrong. High Commander Velter adjusted the controls on his bridge, a silent symphony of practiced movements. Another conquest. Another species brought into the fold of galactic civility. The human settlement on Haven's Rest was just a formality. Shield strength of the colony? Velter's voice was a low rumble across the command deck. Down to 60%, Commander. Following standard protocol, they should surrender at 40%. Velter nodded his scaled head, a gesture of absolute assurance. This was how war worked in the galaxy. It had been this way for 3,000 years. Every civilized species followed the rules: distant energy weapon engagements, precise calculations of shield integrity and weapon yield. When the math dictated defeat, you surrendered. Clean. Simple. Civilized. The Zapirians had pacified 47 worlds with these exact methods. Their energy cannons were peerless, their shields impenetrable, their battle computers infallible. Any response from the humans? Velter inquired, expecting the usual panicked pleas. Strategic analyst Kixara, smaller than most Zapirians with scales of vivid green instead of the customary imperial purple, looked up from her data screen. They sent a distress signal into deep space, Commander. Standard emergency broadcast. Asking for help. Velter scoffed, a sound like grinding metal. From whom? We studied their species. They are primitive. They still use chemical rockets for some of their ships. Their weapons are mostly kinetic projectiles, ancient technology. He dismissed her with a wave. But Kixara frowned, a ripple of unease moving beneath her scales. Something about the human databases she'd been studying was disturbing. Every other species in the galaxy followed a clear evolutionary arc: technological advancement, a few tribal skirmishes, then an inevitable transcendence of violence. War became a sterile science. But humans? Their history was a relentless, unbroken tapestry of conflict. Tribe against tribe, nation against nation, planet against planet. 10,000 years of unceasing struggle. Even their entertainment glorified combat. Their sports were mimicries of battle. Their games, war. Commander, the weapons officer reported, his voice cutting through Kixara's thoughts. Colony shields are at 45%. Good. Prepare to receive their surrender, Velter stated, a flicker of satisfaction in his eyes. He'd done this countless times. The colony would yield. The humans would accept Zapirian rule. Some might resist initially, but they would learn. Everyone learned. Then, a communications officer's voice, sharp with surprise, sliced through the bridge's calm. Long-range sensors detect a ship approaching, very fast. Velter snapped his head to the tactical display. A single red dot, moving with impossible velocity, was tearing through the void towards them. What kind of ship? Unknown class, Commander. It's huge. Much larger than any recorded human vessel. Kixara's data screen flared with new information. Commander, the ship is transmitting a message. Put it through. The bridge speakers crackled, then a human voice, calm and cold with an unwavering confidence that chilled Velter to his core, filled the silence. This is Admiral Marcus Kane of the USS Vengeance. You have attacked human civilians. Prepare for consequences. Velter stared at the communication panel, utterly bewildered. Where was the request for negotiation? The plea for mercy? The offer to surrender? Communications. Respond to their transmission. Tell them we are willing to discuss terms. No response, Commander. They have cut communication. The red dot on the tactical display was impossibly close. Closer than any sane, civilized ship would ever dare approach. Velter commanded 12 cruisers, each armed with the most advanced energy weapons in the galaxy, each shielded against anything known.
Time to intercept, he demanded. 12 minutes.
Velter activated the fleet communication system. All ships, prepare for engagement.
Standard formation. This will be a simple demonstration of Zapirian superiority.
But Kixara was still staring at her screen, her green scales now pale with dawning horror.
She'd been digging deeper into human military history.
She thought she understood, but it seemed utterly impossible. "Commander," she whispered, her voice barely audible, "I think we may have made an error."
"What kind of error?" "We assumed humans fight like we do.
Like civilized species do. But their history, Commander, they have never stopped fighting.
Not for a single generation. Every human military advance has been forged in actual combat. Their weapons, their tactics, their training, it's all real."
Velter dismissed her with a contemptuous wave.
"They are primitive. Chemical rockets and kinetic weapons against our energy cannons?
Our battle computer gives us a victory probability of 98%.
But Commander, they're kinetic weapons," a Kixara tried to explain, but Velter wasn't listening. On the main screen, the human ship dropped out of hyperspace.
It was colossal, a leviathan of dark gray, larger than 3 Zapirian cruisers combined. Its hull was not sleek, but scarred, covered in what appeared to be weapon ports, not for energy, but for something else entirely.
"All ships, target the human vessel," Velter roared. "Prepare to fire on my command." The USS Vengeance continued its implacable approach. No evasive maneuvers. No frantic calls for terms. It simply flew straight towards the Zapirian fleet like a dark, unstoppable arrow.
"Commander," the weapons officer reported, a tremor in his voice, "they are not following standard engagement protocols. They are approaching to point-blank range."
"Then they are fools,"
Velter snarled.
"Fire all weapons." 12 Zapirian cruisers unleashed a maelstrom of purple energy. Beams lanced across the void, impacting the human ship.
The energy should have overloaded its shields instantly.
Instead, the beams seemed to splash harmlessly against the dark hull, dissolving into flashes of light. "What?"
Velter stared, incredulous.
"How are their shields absorbing that much energy?"
"Commander," the weapons officer stammered, his voice shaking, "I don't think those are energy shields."
The USS Vengeance stopped, hovering in space 50,000 kilometers away.
Close enough that Velter could clearly discern the details of its scarred hull, and what he saw made no sense. The human ship was covered in armor.
Physical armor. Thick metal plates designed to absorb, not deflect.
No civilized species had used physical armor for 1,000 years. Energy shields were simply more efficient. But as Velter watched, ports opened along the human ship's hull, not energy weapon ports, but something else entirely. "What are they doing?" he whispered, a seed of true dread taking root. Aboard the USS Vengeance, Admiral Marcus Kane sat in his command chair, his gaze fixed on the Zapirian fleet through his own main screen. His tactical officer, Commander Lisa Brooks, delivered her final calculations with professional calm. 12 enemy cruisers in standard defensive formation. Energy weapons only. No kinetic defenses detected. Kane nodded. "They fight like everyone else in the galaxy. Same rules, same tactics, same weaknesses. Weapons ready, Admiral." Kane looked at the screen one last time. 50,000 human civilians on Haven's Rest were depending on him. Back on old Earth, there would have been endless debates about rules of engagement, diplomatic solutions. But Kane was not from the old days. He was from the new human military, forged in the crucible of 10 millennia of unbroken conflict. He understood a simple, brutal truth: sometimes, you just had to fight. "Fire," he said quietly. The USS Vengeance unleashed its main guns. Not energy weapons. Kinetic weapons. Tungsten rods, accelerated to near light speed by magnetic fields. Simple pieces of metal, yet each carried the destructive force of a tactical nuclear weapon. The first Zapirian cruiser simply vanished. One moment, it was there. The next, an expanding cloud of debris and superheated vapor. On his bridge, High Commander Velter watched his fleet's lead ship die. He felt something he had never experienced in his 300 years of life: primal, gut-wrenching fear. He stared at the empty space where his lead cruiser had been. His mind reeled. The ship hadn't been disabled. It hadn't surrendered. It had been annihilated in less than a second. "Report," he shrieked at his bridge crew. The human weapon, it was not energy-based, his weapons officer stammered, his voice a ragged gasp. It was a physical projectile, moving at near light speed. "Our shields, they could not deflect it." "That's impossible. No one uses kinetic weapons anymore. They are primitive." Strategic analyst Kixara looked up from her screen, her green scales now a sickly pale. "Commander, I have been studying human weapons technology. They never stopped developing kinetic systems. While we perfected energy shields to stop energy weapons, they perfected projectile weapons to go through energy shields." Panic clawed at Velter's chest. "All ships. Evasive maneuvers. Maintain distance." But the USS Vengeance was already firing again. More tungsten rods lanced across the void like invisible spears. The second Zapirian cruiser tried to dodge, but it was too slow. The kinetic projectile punched through its hull like paper, and the ship exploded from the inside out. Admiral Kane watched the second alien ship die, then turned to Commander Brooks. Analysis. Lisa Brooks, ever the professional, calmly studied her readouts. "Their ships are built for energy weapon combat only, Admiral. Thin hulls, large shield generators, no armor plating. They cannot handle kinetic impact." "What about their formation?" "Standard defensive globe. Every ship exactly where their computers tell them to be. No creativity. No adaptation." Kane nodded. This was what human military commanders had always known, but the rest of the galaxy had forgotten. Rigid tactics worked fine, until you met someone who didn't follow the same rules. "Captain Murphy," Kane spoke into his comm. Captain Jake Murphy's voice returned instantly. "Yes, Admiral?" "Prepare boarding parties." A momentary silence. "Sir, did you say boarding parties?" "You heard correctly, Captain. We are going to take one of their ships intact." Velter watched his tactical display with growing horror. The human ship was not maintaining a safe distance. It was moving closer to his remaining ships. Much, much closer. "What are they doing?" he demanded. "Unknown, Commander. This behavior does not match any recorded combat pattern." Kixara was frantically scrolling through human military databases. What she found made her want to crawl under her workstation. "Commander, humans have something called boarding actions. They actually send soldiers onto enemy ships during combat." "That is insane. Who would risk their soldiers in such a way?" "Humans, Commander. They have been doing it for thousands of years. From their wooden sailing ships to their space vessels." Velter couldn't believe his audio sensors. "No civilized species fights hand-to-hand. We have energy weapons. We have shields. Combat is conducted at safe distances, with mathematical precision." "Commander," his communications officer interrupted. "The human ship is launching small craft." On the main screen, Velter watched dozens of small ships pour from the USS Vengeance. They weren't fighters in any sense he understood. They were heavily armored shuttles, moving fast and low, weaving between his cruisers like insects. "Destroy them," he ordered. His ships fired their energy weapons, but the shuttles were too fast, too small. They dodged between the lancing beams, relying on speed and sheer unpredictability, not shields. Captain Murphy sat in the lead boarding shuttle, checking his equipment one last time. Around him, 40 Marine soldiers did the same, their combat armor gleaming, their weapons designed for the brutal intimacy of close quarters fighting inside enemy vessels. 2 minutes to target, the pilot announced. Sergeant Amy Collins, seated across from Murphy, grinned beneath her helmet's faceplate. "Think they'll know what hit them, Captain?" "Doubt it," Murphy replied, his voice grim. "According to intelligence,
they've never seen boarding actions before. Their ships aren't designed to repel boarders. Tech specialist Ryan Torres looked up from his scanner. Captain, I'm reading their ship layouts. Wide corridors, thin internal walls, no security checkpoints. It's like they built these ships assuming no one would ever fight inside them. Murphy shook his head. These aliens had no idea what real combat looked like. They'd spent so long fighting with computers and energy weapons that they'd forgotten the most basic truth of warfare: sometimes, you had to get close and personal. 30 seconds, the pilot called out. The boarding shuttle slammed into the side of a Zapirian cruiser with a thunderous impact. Magnetic clamps locked onto the alien hull, and cutting torches began to burn through the outer armor. Inside the Zapirian ship, alarms shrieked. The crew ran in panicked confusion, utterly unprepared. They had never trained for this because it had simply never happened in galactic history. "What do we do?" a young Zapirian officer cried to his commander. I do not know," the commander stammered, his scales paling. Their training covered energy attacks, shield failures, system overloads. No one had ever told them what to do if enemies actually came inside their ship. A section of the hull exploded inward, smoke billowing into the corridor. Through the haze emerged shapes the Zapirians had never seen, humans in full combat armor, carrying weapons that fired solid projectiles instead of energy beams. Captain Murphy stepped through the breach first, his rifle ready. The corridor was precisely as Torres had predicted, wide, undefended, and filled with confused aliens who had no idea how to fight at close range. "Secure the corridor," he barked at his marines. "Collins, take your squad to the bridge. Torres, get to their computer core. I want this ship taken in 10 minutes." The marines swept through the Zapirian cruiser like a force of nature. The alien crew tried to resist, but their energy weapons were designed for ship-to-ship combat, not fighting in cramped corridors. The humans employed tactics the Zapirians had never imagined: smoke grenades, flashbangs, coordinated squad movements, relentless aggression. Sergeant Collins kicked in the door to the bridge. The alien officers huddled behind their control panels, their eyes wide with terror. "Bridge secure," she reported to Murphy. Back on the USS Vengeance, Admiral Kane watched his boarding party seize control of the alien ship in less than 8 minutes. "It was almost too easy," Commander Brooks reported. "The remaining Zapirian ships are pulling back to long range." Kane wasn't surprised. The aliens were retreating to their comfort zone, where they could fight with energy weapons at safe distances. But Kane had no intention of letting them recover. "Launch fighters," he ordered. "Sir," Brooks interjected, "they're not really fighters. They're modified shuttles with weapons attached." "I know exactly what they are, Commander." More small craft launched from the Vengeance. These were different from the boarding shuttles, faster, more agile, armed for ship-to-ship combat. But like everything human, they didn't fight the way the galaxy expected. Instead of forming neat squadrons and engaging in organized combat, the human pilots spread out, attacking from every direction at once. They used asteroids for cover, flew in unpredictable patterns, coordinating their attacks without any apparent central control. Velter watched his fleet being torn apart by tactics he simply could not comprehend. His energy weapons couldn't track targets that refused to fly in straight lines. His computers couldn't calculate a response to enemies that seemed to make decisions randomly. "Commander," Kixara said quietly, her voice laced with dread, "I have finished reading the human military databases." "What did you find?" "They have been at war for their entire history. Every human military tactic has been tested in real combat, against other humans. Their weapons, their strategies, their training, all of it comes from actual fighting experience." Velter finally understood. Every other species in the galaxy had evolved past warfare, turning combat into a science with rules and predictable outcomes. But humans had never stopped fighting. They had turned warfare into an art form. "How many ships have we lost?" he asked, his voice hollow. 6 destroyed, 1 captured, 3 heavily damaged. Half his fleet was gone. The human ship had barely been scratched. Its physical armor had absorbed everything his energy weapons could throw at it. Commander, his communications officer said, we are receiving a transmission from the human admiral. Put it through. Admiral Kane's voice filled the bridge, calm and chillingly professional. Zapirian Commander, you have two choices. Surrender now and be treated according to human military law, or continue fighting and be destroyed. You have 60 seconds to decide. Velter looked around his bridge at his terrified crew. He thought about his remaining ships, about the human vessel that seemed impossible to damage. He thought about the human soldiers likely still on his captured cruiser, studying Zapirian technology, learning how to fight them even better. For the first time in his military career, High Commander Velter made a decision based on profound fear, not mathematics. Send the surrender signal, he whispered. Admiral Kane watched the surrender signal flash on his screen and shook his head. Belay that order, Commander Brooks. We are not accepting their surrender. Commander Lisa Brooks turned, incredulous. Sir, they are offering to surrender according to Galactic protocols. Galactic protocols didn't stop them from attacking human civilians, Kane replied coldly. They started this fight. We finish it on our terms. He opened a communication channel to the Zapirian fleet. Zapirian Commander, your surrender is rejected. You attacked innocent people. Now you learn what happens when you wage war against humanity. High Commander Velter felt his blood turn to ice. No one in galactic history had ever rejected a formal surrender. It went against every rule of civilized warfare. What? What do they want? He asked his bridge crew, desperation creeping into his voice. Strategic analyst Kixara was studying her human databases with growing horror. Commander, I think they want to make an example of us. In human history, when someone attacked their civilians, they did not just defeat the enemy. They destroyed them completely, so others would know not to try again. Velter couldn't believe it. But we surrendered. The fighting should be over. Not by human rules, Commander. On the USS Vengeance, Admiral Kane was implementing something the galaxy had never seen: total warfare. Not the mathematical precision of galactic combat, but the complete, unwavering dedication to victory that humans had honed over 10,000 years of fighting. Captain Murphy, Kane spoke into his communicator. Yes, Admiral. How many prisoners did you take from that cruiser? 47 aliens, sir. They offered no real resistance once we were aboard. Treat them well, Captain. But I want you to show them something first. What would that be, sir? Kane smiled, but it was not a pleasant expression. Show them what human soldiers look like when they fight. Captain Murphy understood immediately. He gathered his Marines in the captured cruiser's main cargo bay, where the Zapirian prisoners huddled, their purple and green scales pale with terror. Listen up, Murphy told his soldiers. We're going to give our new friends here a history lesson. Tech specialist Ryan Torres connected his equipment to the ship's main display. What appeared made the Zapirian prisoners gasp in terror: video footage from human military history. Vikings charging into battle with axes and shields. Roman legions marching across ancient battlefields. Medieval knights in full armor fighting with swords. World War II soldiers storming beaches under enemy fire. This is how humans have always fought, Murphy explained to the trembling aliens. Not with computers and calculations. With courage. And steel. The videos continued: tank battles from Earth's colonial wars, space marines fighting in asteroid mines, urban combat on Mars. Every image depicted humans fighting up close, face-to-face with their enemies. Sergeant Amy Collins added her own commentary. See how they keep fighting even when they're hurt? That soldier there just lost his arm, but he's still shooting. That Marine is bleeding from 3 wounds, but he keeps moving forward. The Zapirian prisoners watched in horrified fascination. They had never seen anything like it. In their wars, soldiers retreated when injured. Combat stopped when casualties reached 15%. But these humans seemed to fight harder when they were hurt. Why do they not retreat? One alien prisoner asked in broken human language. Because retreat means their friends die, Murphy answered simply.
And humans do not let their friends die if they can help it. Meanwhile, on the Vengeance Bridge, Commander Brooks analyzed the remaining Zapirian ships. "Admiral, they are trying to withdraw to long range. They want to fight from a distance where they feel safe." "Then we don't let them feel safe," Kane replied. "Launch all fighters. Full attack formation." But the human fighters didn't attack the way any galactic species expected. Instead of engaging directly, they began broadcasting on all frequencies. What they transmitted made every alien crew member stop what they were doing and listen in shock. It was audio recordings from human battles, the guttural screams of soldiers charging into combat, war cries unchanged for 10,000 years. The deafening roar of human weapons. The voices of human commanders shouting orders under fire. Then came something worse, human military music. Songs about fighting and dying for comrades. Anthems about never surrendering. Battle hymns that spoke of death before dishonor. Dr. Helen Park, the Vengeance's combat psychologist, monitored alien communications as the broadcasts took effect. What she heard confirmed her theories about galactic psychology. "Admiral," she reported, "their crew communications are showing signs of panic. Several ships report crew members refusing to man their battle stations. Why? They have never heard anything like our military culture before. To them, combat is a job. To us, it is a calling. They cannot understand enemies who seem to enjoy fighting." The psychological warfare was working even better than Kane had hoped. 3 more Zapirian cruisers stopped firing entirely as their crews abandoned their posts. The aliens weren't cowards, but they had never faced an enemy that seemed to welcome combat instead of avoiding it. Lieutenant Sam Rivera, flying his modified fighter, took advantage of the alien confusion. While the Zapirian ships were distracted by the broadcasts, he flew his small craft directly into their formation. What he did next had never been attempted in galactic warfare. He began ramming their weapon turrets with his armored fighter. The Zapirian weapons officer on one ship watched in disbelief as the human pilot deliberately crashed his small craft into their gun mounts, destroying them one by one. "He is sacrificing his ship to damage ours," the officer shrieked. Why would he do that? Velter had no answer. In civilized warfare, no pilot would sacrifice his valuable fighter to damage a single weapon turret. The mathematics made no sense. But Lieutenant Rivera wasn't done. After destroying 3 gun turrets, he ejected from his damaged fighter and used his personal thruster pack to land on the Zapirian hull. Then he began placing explosive charges on their shield generators. "There's a human soldier on our outer hull," the weapons officer screamed. "Impossible. No one fights in the vacuum of space. Tell that to the human commander." Rivera finished placing his charges and pushed off from the alien hull. The explosions that followed knocked out 2 shield generators, leaving the Zapirian cruiser utterly defenseless. Back on the USS Vengeance, Admiral Kane received reports from all his units. The psychological warfare was breaking the alien fleet's will to fight. The boarding parties had captured 2 more ships. The fighter attacks had disabled 3 others. "Admiral," Commander Brooks reported, "we have received a priority transmission from Zapirian High Command. They are ordering their fleet to withdraw immediately." "Do we let them go?" Kane thought about the 50,000 human civilians on Haven's Rest. He thought about the message this battle would send to every other species in the galaxy. He thought about the future of humanity among the stars. Negative. We pursue. What happened next had never occurred in galactic history. A human fleet chased a retreating enemy across 3 star systems, destroying ships that tried to escape and capturing others intact. The Zapirians simply could not comprehend that anyone would continue fighting after the enemy had tried to withdraw. The final battle took place near a Zapirian military station. High Commander Velter, down to his last 3 ships, made a desperate transmission to Admiral Kane. "Human Admiral, please. We acknowledge your superiority. We will pay compensation for the colony attack. We offered tribute and territory. What more do you want?" Kane's response was broadcast across the entire Zapirian fleet and to their military command.
His words would be remembered throughout galactic history. "Commander, you made a mistake. You thought war was about mathematics and technology. You thought it was about who had the biggest guns or the best shields. But war is not about equipment. War is about will. And humans have something that your species lost long ago. What is that? We remember what we are fighting for." The last 3 Zapirian ships surrendered, not because their shields failed or their weapons ran out of power, but because their crews could no longer face an enemy that fought with such terrible, unyielding determination. As Admiral Kane accepted the final surrender, Dr. Park made her report to Earth Command. Her analysis would change how the galaxy viewed humanity forever. The Zapirians and other galactic species evolved past their warrior phase, she explained. They turned combat into a science because they wanted to minimize violence. But humans never stopped being warriors. We just became better at it. The battle was over. But the war for humanity's place in the galaxy had just begun. News of the Zapirian fleet's utter defeat spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. In the Galactic Council chambers on Nexus Prime, representatives from 50 different species gathered in emergency session. They had all received the same impossible reports: a single human warship had annihilated an entire Zapirian battle fleet. Council leader Thexani, a tall insectoid being with a silver carapace, called the session to order. "We are here to discuss the human incident. High Commander Velter, please explain what happened." Velter stood before the council, his purple scales now faded to a shameful gray. Behind him, the main display showed tactical recordings of the battle. "Honored Council, the humans do not fight like any known species. They use tactics that violate every principle of civilized warfare." "Explain," Thexani commanded. "They rejected our surrender. They pursued retreating ships. They boarded our vessels during combat. They fight as if," Velter struggled to find the words. "As if they enjoy it." Murmurs of disbelief rippled through the chamber. Meanwhile, 3 star systems away, Admiral Kane was dealing with a problem no human commander had ever faced. The USS Vengeance was badly damaged, deep in alien space with no friendly ports for repairs. "Damage report," Kane asked his chief engineer. "Main engines at 60%, Admiral. Hull breaches on decks 7 through 12. Shield generators are running hot. We need a starbase for proper repairs." Kane looked at the tactical display showing their isolation. They were surrounded by former Zapirian territory, weeks of travel from any human support. Commander Brooks offered a suggestion. "Admiral, we have captured 3 intact Zapirian cruisers. Maybe we can use their technology? Their technology is completely different from ours." Tech specialist Torres spoke up from his workstation. "Not necessarily, sir," Torres continued, a glint in his eye. "I've been studying their systems. Their energy technology is actually more advanced than ours in some ways. If we could adapt it," Kane made a decision that would prove to be one of the most important in human military history. "Do it. Strip whatever we can use from the captured ships." What happened next was something no galactic species had ever attempted. The human crew began rebuilding their warship using alien technology. Not in a space dock with proper tools, but in the middle of hostile space, vulnerable to attack at any moment. Sergeant Collins led a team of Marines into a captured Zapirian cruiser. Their mission: remove alien shield generators and somehow make them work with human systems. "These things are twice as big as our generators," one Marine complained. "Then we make bigger mounting brackets." Collins snapped back. "Torres, how do we connect their power systems to ours?" Torres was already elbow-deep in alien control panels. "Their systems use crystalline matrices instead of circuits, but I think I can build a converter interface." Dr. Park watched the human crew work with a growing sense of awe. "Admiral, what they are doing should be impossible. Our technology and theirs are completely incompatible." "Should be impossible," Kane agreed, a wry smile touching his lips. "But humans have been making impossible things work for thousands of years." The human crew attacked the problem with typical human ingenuity. When the alien shield generators wouldn't fit in human mounting points, they cut new holes in the hull. When the power systems wouldn't connect, they built new interfaces. When the alien computers wouldn't talk to human systems, they wrote translation programs on the fly.
Lieutenant Rivera, recovered from his audacious spacewalk, was working on integrating Zapirian weapons with human targeting systems. Admiral, their energy cannons are more powerful than our kinetic guns, but their targeting is too slow.
Can you fix it?
I think so. If I bypass their automatic systems and connect directly to our fire control, we might just get the best of both technologies.
Back at the Galactic Council, strategic analyst Kixara presented her complete analysis of human warfare.
What she had discovered made the assembled representatives increasingly uncomfortable. Humans have been at war continuously for 10,000 years, she explained, her voice grave. But it is not random violence.
Every conflict has taught them something new.
They learn from their defeats and improve their victories. All species go through a warrior phase, Council leader Thexani interrupted. Then they evolve past it. That is what makes humans different, Kixara continued, her eyes sweeping across the council. They never evolved past warfare. They evolved because of warfare. Every aspect of their society is built around the idea that they might have to fight for their survival at any moment.
She activated a holographic display showing human military development.
Look at their technology progression. While we developed energy weapons for efficiency, they developed kinetic weapons for maximum destruction. While we created shields to deflect attacks, they created armor to absorb damage. While we built ships for long-range combat, they built ships for close-range fighting. What are you saying? Asked Representative Zulker, a crystalline being whose species hadn't fought a war in over 1,000 years. I am saying, Kixara concluded, her voice barely a whisper but echoing through the silent chamber, that humans are not just another species with advanced weapons. They are warfare itself, evolved into intelligent form. The council chamber fell into a stunned silence as the terrifying implications sank in.
Back on the USS Vengeance, the impossible was becoming possible. After 3 days of continuous, backbreaking work, the human crew had successfully integrated alien technology with their own systems. The result was a warship unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen.
Power up the new systems, Kane ordered. The hybrid shield generators came online, creating energy barriers twice as strong as the original human shields. The modified weapon systems charged, combining human targeting speed with alien energy output.
The enhanced engines hummed with power from both human and Zapirian technologies. Commander Brooks stared at her tactical displays in amazement.
Admiral, our combat capability has increased by over 300%.
And we did it in 3 days, in the middle of space.
The Zapirians probably spent years developing each of these systems, Kane observed, a hint of grim satisfaction in his voice. Dr. Park, who had been monitoring communications, looked up.
Admiral, I am picking up increased chatter from multiple alien fleets.
Word of our victory is spreading, and not everyone is happy about it.
How not happy? 3 different species have mobilized their fleets.
They're calling it a threat assessment mission, but it looks like they want to test us.
Kane studied the strategic display. Multiple alien fleets were converging on their position from different directions.
Any one of them was larger than the Zapirian force they had just defeated.
Recommendations, he asked his staff.
We should withdraw to human space, Brooks suggested, her voice tight.
We are outnumbered 50-1.
That would take weeks, Kane replied. They would catch us long before we reached friendly territory.
Captain Murphy had a different idea. Admiral, maybe we shouldn't run. Kane raised an eyebrow. Explain. We just proved that one human ship can defeat a Zapirian fleet. Now 3 different alien species want to test us.
Maybe it's time to show the galaxy what happens when they all test us at once. Kane considered the captain's words. The logical move was to retreat and call for reinforcements.
But logic was not always the human way.
Dr. Park, what is your psychological assessment of the situation? The alien species are scared, Admiral. Our victory over the Zapirians has shattered their understanding of how warfare works. They need to test us to see if we're really as dangerous as we appear.
And if we run, they will assume we got lucky once. They will keep testing us until they find our weakness.
Kane made his decision with the same calm confidence he had shown throughout the battle.
Then we do not run. We show them that luck had nothing to do with it. He opened a communication channel to the approaching alien fleets. Attention, alien commanders. This is Admiral Marcus Kane of the human battleship USS Vengeance. You are approaching human territory. State your intentions. The response came from multiple sources at once.
3 different alien commanders, speaking for 3 different species, all saying essentially the same thing. They wanted to see if humans were really as dangerous as reported.
Kane's reply would be remembered throughout galactic history. You want to test human capabilities? Very well. All 3 of your fleets may attack simultaneously. We will demonstrate why humans do not need luck to win battles. As the alien fleets moved into attack position, the crew of the USS Vengeance prepared for the impossible, a single human ship against 3 entire alien battle fleets. But they were no longer just human. They were human plus.
Enhanced with alien technology, and driven by 10,000 years of warrior evolution.
The galaxy was about to learn what happened when you gave humans better tools to fight with. The 3 alien fleets approached the USS Vengeance from different directions, their formations perfect examples of galactic military doctrine.
The Hegemony fleet came from the north with 25 cruisers in a defensive wall.
The Confederation approached from the east with 30 ships in a strike formation. The Alliance moved in from the south with 18 heavy battleships, each twice the size of normal cruisers. Admiral Kane stood on his bridge, watching the tactical display as 73 enemy ships surrounded his single vessel. By every rule of galactic warfare, the USS Vengeance should have been vaporized in minutes. All enemy fleets are in position, Commander Brooks reported. They are hailing us. Put them through.
3 alien voices spoke at once, their words overlapping in a mixture of languages that the ship's computers translated into human speech.
Human vessel, you are outnumbered 73 to 1. Surrender now and we will treat you according to galactic law. Kane activated his communication system. This is Admiral Kane. You came here to test human capabilities. Consider this your test.
He turned to his crew.
All stations battle ready. Show them what humans do when the odds are against us. The first shots came from the Hegemony fleet. 25 energy cannons fired at once, creating a wall of destructive power that should have disintegrated any ship in the galaxy. Instead, the hybrid shields that Torres had installed absorbed the energy, converting it into power for the human weapon systems. Shields holding at 95%. Brooks reported, a trace of awe in her voice. And our power levels are actually increasing. Kane smiled, a cold, predatory slash. Return fire. Full spread. The USS Vengeance fired back with weapons that no ship in galactic history had ever carried. Human kinetic guns, combined with alien energy systems, created projectiles that were both physical and energetic. The tungsten rods were wrapped in energy fields that made them even more destructive. 3 Hegemony cruisers simply ceased to exist. Impossible. The Hegemony commander's voice crackled over the communication system. No single ship has that much firepower.
You are fighting humans now, Kane replied calmly.
We do not follow your rules.
The Confederation fleet attacked next, trying to use their superior numbers to overwhelm the human ship. Their 30 vessels fired in sequence, creating a continuous stream of energy fire. Captain Murphy watched the display from the Marine Command Center.
Admiral. Request permission to launch boarding parties against 30 ships. Yes, sir, we've learned how to use their transportation systems. We can board multiple ships simultaneously. Kane had seen his Marines do impossible things before. Permission granted. Show them what human soldiers can do.
What happened next would be talked about in military academies across the galaxy for centuries.
The USS Vengeance launched not 1 or 2 boarding shuttles, but dozens.
Each shuttle carried a small team of Marines, equipped with captured alien technology and honed human tactics.
Sergeant Collins led one team onto a Confederation cruiser.
The alien crew was expecting the usual polite surrender negotiations. Instead, they found themselves facing humans who had studied their ship layouts and knew exactly where to strike.
"Secure the bridge," Collins ordered her team. "Torres, get to their computer core. I want their navigation systems." "What are you planning, Sergeant?"
"We're going to turn their own ships against them."
While the Marines were seizing enemy vessels, the Alliance fleet made their attack.
Their 18 heavy battleships fired together, creating energy beams more powerful than anything the galaxy had ever seen.
The USS Vengeance took the full force of the attack.
For a moment, even the hybrid shields flickered.
"Damage report," Kane called out. "Shields at 60%. Brooks replied, her jaw set. "But we are holding."
Dr. Park was monitoring the psychological effects of the battle on the enemy crews.
"Admiral, I am detecting panic in their communications.
They cannot understand why their most powerful weapons are not working."
"Then let us give them something else to think about," Kane said, his voice hard as steel. "Launch all fighters."
Lieutenant Rivera led the fighter attack, but these were not the same fighters that had attacked the Zapirians. Using alien technology, the human pilots had modified their ships to be faster, more maneuverable, and deadlier than anything in galactic history. Rivera's fighter squadron attacked the Alliance battleships, using tactics no galactic pilot had ever imagined. They flew inside the enemy formation, using the massive ships as cover while they targeted weapon systems and engines.
"This is insane," the Alliance commander broadcast on all frequencies.
"They are flying suicide missions." "No," Rivera replied over the communication system, his voice clear and resonant.
"We are flying human missions."
The fighter attack was devastating, but it wasn't the end of the human surprises. On 5 different Confederation ships, Marine teams had successfully taken control of the navigation systems.
Under Collins' coordination, they turned the captured ships around and began firing on their own fleet. "Admiral," Murphy reported, "we now have 5 enemy ships under human control. Use them," Kane ordered. The battle descended into chaos.
The Confederation fleet found themselves fighting their own ships. The Alliance battleships were being torn apart by human fighters that seemed to ignore the laws of physics. The hegemony cruisers were being destroyed by weapons their shields could not stop. In the middle of it all, the USS Vengeance continued to fight with the calm, brutal efficiency that had marked human warfare for 10,000 years.
"Admiral," Brooks reported, "the enemy fleets are trying to withdraw."
"Let them go," Kane said, his voice flat, "but not before they understand what they have learned today." He opened a communication channel to all 3 fleets.
"Attention, alien commanders. You came here to test human capabilities.
You have seen what one human ship can do against 73 of your best vessels. Remember this when you return to your homeworlds.
Remember this when you consider attacking human colonies. Remember this when you think about making war against humanity."
The alien fleets retreated in utter disorder, leaving behind 28 destroyed ships and hundreds of confused survivors who would spend the rest of their lives trying to explain what they had witnessed.
3 months later, Ambassador Claire Watson arrived at the Galactic Council with a human delegation.
The council chamber was packed with representatives from every major species in the galaxy, all of them desperate to understand what humanity meant for the future of galactic civilization. "Honored Council," Watson began, her voice calm and clear.
"Humanity wishes to join the galactic community as an equal partner.
We offer our technology, our knowledge, and our protection to all peaceful species."
Council leader Thexani asked the question that everyone was thinking. "And if we refuse?"
Watson smiled, but it was not a threatening expression. "Then you continue to live in a galaxy where the strongest species preys on the weakest.
Where advanced civilizations conquer primitive ones. Where might makes right. And if we accept? Then you live in a galaxy where humans stand guard. Where no species needs to fear extinction.
where the strong protect the weak instead of exploiting them.
The vote was unanimous.
6 months after the battle that redefined interstellar conflict, Admiral Kane found himself promoted to Fleet Admiral, given command of the first human Galactic Defense Force. The USS Vengeance had been joined by a dozen other human ships, all equipped with the hybrid technology that had proven so devastatingly effective. Kane stood on the bridge of his new flagship, watching a patrol of human ships escort a convoy of alien traders through space that had once been controlled by pirates. "Admiral," Commander Brooks reported, "we are receiving a distress call from the Vega system.
Slavers are attacking a refugee convoy."
Kane did not hesitate.
"Set course for Vega. Maximum speed."
"Sir, that is outside our assigned patrol area." "Commander," Kane replied, his gaze unwavering as the stars stretched ahead, "when humans hear a call for help, geography becomes irrelevant." As the human fleet jumped to hyperspace, Kane reflected on how much the galaxy had changed. The old system of civilized warfare was dead.
In its place was something new.
A galaxy where the most dangerous predators had become the most dedicated protectors. The other species had spent thousands of years trying to evolve past their warrior nature.
Humans had spent thousands of years perfecting it.
And now, for the first time in galactic history, the galaxy's greatest fighters were also its greatest defenders. In the depths of space, human ships patrolled the trade routes.
In council chambers, human diplomats negotiated from positions of strength.
In military academies across the stars, alien cadets studied human tactics, learning that sometimes the best way to preserve peace was to be very, very good at war.
The galaxy had learned that humans were not just another species with advanced technology. They were something new and unprecedented.
Warriors who fought not for conquest but for protection. Soldiers who used their strength to defend the weak instead of exploiting them.
Admiral Kane's final log entry summed up humanity's new role in the galaxy. "We came to the stars as explorers. We became warriors out of necessity. Now we serve as guardians by choice. The galaxy is safer because humans are here to fight for it."
The age of civilized warfare was over.
The age of human protection had begun.